It is now 7 o'clock. We can get started with the meeting.
Cool. And we have to do that roll call attendance thing too.
Yep, I know that. We're going to
Okay.
go in alphabetical order, so learn where you fall on the alphabet.
All right. And
Um,
let me start the recording. Record cloud.
Recording in progress.
okay, welcome to the February 12th meeting of the CPA committee, and we have a number of guests. So let's get started with a reading of the um, meeting.
This meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board and committee members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count toward quorum. The meeting may be broadcast live and will be recorded on ECAT. Folks wishing to attend this meeting need to use the Zoom function and use the link in the posted agenda. While conducting these virtual meetings, we try to keep the meeting as close to an in-person procedure and process as possible. One notable difference is we have to do a roll call attendance, and all votes have to be done by roll call. And also, if folks attending from the public wish to be recognized, they can use the raise hand function, and the chair can acknowledge them. Folks who are attending this meeting for a specific agenda item will be in the attendee waiting room and will be promoted to panelists when that agenda item is being addressed by the committee.
Very good. Thank you. A very dramatic reading. Is there a town meeting Emmy award we could, nominate?
Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm here all
All
night.
right, so let's start with the roll call. Hands present.
Tresco present.
Yeah, alphabetical order, John.
That's right. You did say that. I'm sorry, Mr. Hans.
I guess I'm next. Lee,
Yeah.
present.
Oh, that's me. I'm here. Sorry.
Rob?
Roger's present.
And that's all I see on my screen. So we have a quorum. And the first item on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting. Did anybody see any mistakes or additions they would like to make?
I move acceptance.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Hands votes yes.
Lee,
Aye.
yes.
You're,
Abstain.
you're last, John, at the end
Yeah,
of the.
I know.
Okay. So we've we've gotten through Jim. Meredith is next.
Abstain.
Rob?
Yes.
I abstain.
So you can actually vote to accept them if you have read them and believe them to be
Yes.
complete. You don't have to actually have attended the meeting.
I was
Correct.
about to say that. Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, so the minutes of the meeting are taken care of. The next thing is we have Wendy Nightingale here as a guest to update us on CPA monetary matters. So can we bring her in, please?
Absolutely. Promoting Wendy. And then she had sent an email with a presentation that I've not had a chance to send on to folks yet.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Wendy.
So what's the news?
So I did a presentation. I'll just do a screen share.
Okay.
Oh, can you do that, Wendy? Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Now I might need to, I don't know if I need to make it bigger. I've got one of those
No, it looks fine to
larger
me.
screens. That's good.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So this is just a little history that I wanted to start out with, which is going to inform the projections for the fiscal 27 budget. So your net surcharge history from inception, it started at 420,000. It's now grown to projected to be over $2 million. We're projecting, or what I'm projecting is basically a 5% amount. This $1,985,000 is the estimated net surcharge for the CP1. It's based on what we've billed this fiscal year, less abatements issued to date, rounded to a nice even number. So that's where we're coming up with our 27 projection. So we're just doing 5% on top of that. It did go up quite a bit from 25 to 26, and that's mainly because more debt from the debt exclusion for the municipal facilities projects was coming online, and that's why there was a jump there. It's very possible that this is going to go up more than 5%, but I felt that 5% was a good, conservative estimate. We really won't know, especially with that $100,000 exemption, where that surcharge will shake out next year. So we're doing 5%.
Good.
And then this is just on this next side of the page is just an estimate of where we're going for the state matching funds. So the last 2 years, it's been, at like 378. So we've done really well with the matching funds because we're at a 3%. We qualify for more rounds in the distribution, which is great. So 375. I like round numbers. So it's just under 19%, but that, which I think is a decent estimate as well, because the last 2 years you're in the 20% range. So 375 would be the estimate for the state match. So this here is basically a summary of the total budget amount, and then the amounts that I would propose be put forward in the town meeting budget article.
Wendy, can I just ask, for those who might be watching, can you explain some of your terminology, like surcharge, just so anyone watching, because folks, some of the greatest curiosity with community preservation funding is exactly how the funding works, how it can be allocated, what the expenses are, and so I know some of this terminology is going to be new to anybody who watches it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And thanks for speaking up, because I don't always see the hand being raised. So just jump in if anyone has any questions. So the surcharge, it's a 3% of your taxes, but the first $100,000 of value on your property, for residential property, is exempt from this surcharge. So basically, if you were to calculate your tax bill based on your property value less $100,000, take that tax amount and take 3% of that. That's your CPA surcharge. And then the state trust fund distribution is based on a surcharge at the Registry of Deeds that they distribute out to CPA communities. Every year we get that around November is usually when it is. There's a form that we file to the Department of Revenue. It's the CP1, which basically says this is what our percentage is that we our surcharge percent. So it's 3% for us. We give the total amount that we levied, and then any additional abatements, and they look at that net amount when they factor their distributions. And then we're gonna estimate $400,000 for like investment and other income. The investment income has been doing very well for the CPA fund. Last fiscal year, actually, I never want to estimate too much, but last year's income was like $511,000. So yeah, excellent. So the investments are paying off. We use Bartholomew and Company. They manage our investments for stabilization funds, OPEB, and community preservation funds, and they do a great job for us. So that total gives you $2,859,250, and so you have a cap for administrative expenses. You can spend up to 5% of that on admin expenses. So we usually take that 5% and put that aside, whether you're going to spend it or not. If you don't spend it, it just goes back into your fund balance. Debt service. So this is the debt service for several projects and acquisitions. So you've got the Chestnut Street land acquisition, you've got the Gill property, town hall renovations, and what's recently also come on is the Richardson Olmsted School, the playgrounds. So that's 579. The debt has been pretty stable, and there's another slide that I'll get to. I think it might be the next one that kind of shows the breakdown of that debt for this year and then the next 2 years. And then in addition to the 5% admin, so you have to reserve or spend 10% of your budget on the 3 CPA categories, which would be affordable housing, historic resources, and open space. Some of this debt service counts toward your historic and open space spending requirements. So that's why these amounts here are a little bit different. But basically 10% of this budget is your 285,925. That's the recommendation for the Affordable Housing Trust. Reserve for historic resources is basically this 285,925 less your debt service that's attributable to historic preservation, which would be town hall. And that's what this difference is here. So this would be just a reserve. So if you had, projects that come up later on, you can use this reserve to fund those projects. And then the same thing for open space. So it's basically this 285,925 less your debt service attributable to open space. And that's what this required reserve of 114,306 is. And then this last line, your annual budget reserve, is essentially a plug. It's basically, gets you to that 2,859,250. You don't have to include this as an appropriation, but what doing so does is it gives you an opportunity. If something came up during the year, you could use this annual budget reserve as a funding source. So if you don't appropriate it, then you lose the ability to use it during the year. It's not necessarily critical, like in your case, because you have such a healthy fund balance that it's not really going to make a difference unless something major came up, like one of those, coveted land acquisitions came up. But but I put it in just in case, and that way it shows, your budget as a whole. So 2,859,250 is the total. Any questions so far?
I have a question, Wendy. Going back to the debt service, are we paying interest on that debt service? And the reason I'm asking is, would it make sense where we have a substantial amount in these reserves right now? Would it make sense for us to pay down that debt service if we're paying on it?
Well, you probably, I'd have to look and see when some of that debt started. So when you issue bonds, you typically can't like refinance them or pay them down for a certain number of years. Usually it's like 8 to 10 years. And then at that point they become what they call callable. And at that point you could either pay them down or you could refinance them. Like if interest rates were more favorable. So for most of this debt service, you just have to continue to pay the bonds until they became callable. And some of it's, I think, fairly new. Like the town hall debt is not that old. The Richardson Olmsted debt we just issued. So some of the other stuff is a little bit older. But I mean, the interest rates aren't horrible, and you got to offset that against the amounts that you're also earning in investment income. So if you pay that down, then you don't have that money to earn investment income on. So I think you're fine with the debt that you have. I think I'd probably look more prospectively at other projects that come up in the future if they're sizable, whether or not you want to pay cash for them or finance them with debt.
I know that financing is something that's come up as a question in the past at town meeting and in meeting conversations. And so it's just why I asked to make sure that we're watching that debt interest paid in perspective to
Mhm.
the income that we have as you addressed. So thank you.
Any other questions at this point? All right, let's continue on then.
Right. So this is the breakdown of the debt. So the reason your debt has been, pretty stable and taking on the RO playground debt is your Dean Street land is now paid off. So fiscal 26 this is the last fiscal year for payments on that debt. So it's basically been replaced with the RO playgrounds and the other debt that you have on the books. So you still got the Chestnut Street land and the fields and the Gill property. I'd have to go back and see when we, when we first borrowed on that. I don't recall the exact date. If that would be something that would be, worth calling in. But I think at this point, I would just leave it.
I think the Chestnut Street was around 2013.
2013, yeah. Okay. It's you've only got a few more years left. If it's 2013, the interest rates are probably not bad. It's going to be paid off in
Gill, I
2023.
believe, was around the same time. That John Ventresco and I had just started on the board then, and I believe that was around that time, around 2013, if my memory serves. Those two would have been around that time.
Yeah. And then town hall restoration. There's two different maturity dates because basically we bonded that in two different increments. And that's just the total of the two increments added together. 112, 100, and then our own playgrounds. So, and that which will be paid off in 2036. So, as you can see, the debt's pretty stable. This is just where you're at with your unreserved fund balance. So at the end of fiscal 24, you ended with a fund balance of a little over $6 million. During fiscal 25, you took in revenues of $2.8 million. You had expenditures for debt, administrative costs, things like that of $949,993, and then appropriations of $1,039,000. So at the end of last fiscal year, as of June 30, which is effectively July 1st, your undesignated fund balance is now $6.8 million. So that's excellent. And so I know that you have, other projects that are being proposed. What you could do tonight is you could vote on the proposed town meeting article for the budget, and then once you decide what those other projects are you're going to fund and how much that is, and you could just take that from undesignated fund balance as a funding source, and you could just leave your budget article as is.
Okay, good to know.
And yep, and so that's all for the presentation. If there are any further questions, happy to answer them.
No, yeah, Wendy, as always, great.
Very thorough.
Unbelievable. Yeah, very easily to understand, and thank God for CPC, as I've said many times.
Yep. No, it's served us well. It's done some great projects for the community. I mean, we would not be able to do the renovations or improvements to the town hall, all the windows, the front entryway. We would not be able to do that without the Community Preservation Fund. And just like the playgrounds at RO, the tennis court project at OA, I mean, those are all just excellent, amazing projects that get so much community use. And so we're really fortunate that we have this funding source to be able to do that.
And we do need to point out that CPA funds can only be expended for our three areas: historic preservation and affordable housing, and open space and recreation. So
Right.
we can't say fund an army or something like that. So.
I have a quick question. But first, thank you for your presentation. That was very informative. I'm wondering about balances in the reserve funds. Am I correct in understanding that There are reserve funds for the three areas, historic resources, open space, and historic preservation. Are there balances in those reserve funds that you could share with us?
Yeah, so it's pretty small, because basically whenever we do have to reserve the money, we try to use that first if possible for projects as they come up. So right now there's only $25,374 in the fund balance reserve for open space. I think historic preservation. Yeah, historic preservation. There is wasn't anything in that, no, because you had some projects last year that met the spending requirements. So right now what I'm carrying forward into 26 from fiscal 25 is 25,374 for open space.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then you do still have, I'm going to send an updated report. I'll send the final report for fiscal 25. I don't know if you did get that or not. That just shows the balances of the other projects that you've previously appropriated money for and what those balances are, like where they stand. So I can send that to you as well.
Wayne, was that a thumbs up?
That was a yes, please send it along and I'll relay it.
Okay, will do.
Next Tuesday.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Nope.
All right, well, thank you, Wendy, and I guess we can move on to the next item agenda and let you go home.
All right, great. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks again, Wendy.
All right,
Do we
take
want
care.
Wendy to stick around while we vote on the budget article? And then let her go after that one?
All right, you're the boss, sort of.
I am not, sir. No. So this one I did send out. Thank you, Wendy, for getting this one done. Let me do a quick screen share. I think I can keep this one. And thank you very much. Come on. There we go. All right.
A quick question, because they'll ask on that article, it does not reference recreation. Can you explain why?
There's no such thing as recreation, actually. It's part of the open space. The open space and active rec is all part of the 10%.
Yeah, recreation's an allowable expense, but it's not part of the 10% requirement.
It's also somewhat more limited than open space. Recreation can't be used for maintenance, for instance, so it's a historical piece that was added on after a need was determined, we always say open space and recreation, but that's absolutely accurate. There's only open space as a category. Has everybody had a chance to look at this?
Looks good.
I'll entertain a motion then.
Motion to move it?
Second.
Okay, we have any discussion? Seeing none, hands, votes aye.
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 Okay, good. Then that passes. Thank you very much. Now we can let Wendy go.
Thank you, Wendy.
Great,
Thank
thanks,
you again,
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, I don't have the agenda in front of me, but I believe the next adventure we're going to undertake are the potential projects. And let's start with Christine Santoro of the Children's Museum.
Christine's in the room. Okay, Christine, promoting to panelist.
We don't have to vote any of these projects up or down. What I would recommend is that if we like a project, we would require a proponent to come back in March with a more detailed proposal. And then what we would do tonight is simply vote a placeholder in the town warrant, which has to be done by the 23rd of February.
Yeah. Yeah, I think tonight a vote could be a vote to include, um, and that'll give sufficient for a placeholder, I think.
So the project at the Children's Museum is sort of ongoing, and I guess we'll allow Christine to explain what's going on with that.
Thank you. I'm here to request the consideration of additional funds. Should we need to change from our proposal of replacement windows at the museum to restoration? I do have one proposal from one company, which I think I gave to you. But looking at it, I'm wondering if it's actually a little bit low. My concern is that when they get in there to do it, they may find some other things, and I'm looking for another proposal to see if, in fact, that is a reasonable amount. So the amount for the site work and the sash repair that's estimate is approximately $84,000, but that doesn't include hardware, any replacement of broken glass, or anything else that they might find when they're taking out the windows. So, I'm looking, for probably a little bit more than that to be set aside. It may not be necessary, but I'm concerned that, we want to get the project done and done right. And if we have to do the restoration as opposed to replacement, I want to make sure that, funds might be available to do that. And also, if we do restoration, it will also require putting in storm windows, because replacement windows would give us, a much, tighter window, energy efficient. Restoration windows would not. It would certainly be a little tighter. Maybe we'd have a little less, draft, but certainly not, what a new replacement window would be. And I want to point out that the replacement windows would be replicas. They would look, you wouldn't really see any difference at all. And we'd have a much tighter, weatherproof window and be more energy efficient. So another part of that would be we'd have to have storm windows over the replacement windows. Excuse me, not the replacement, the restoration destroyed windows. And I don't have an exact cost for that either. I'm anticipating anywhere from $8,500 to $10,000 for storm windows that would allow you to see the restored windows and and be really weather tight. And also there certainly will be additional administration fees that would be included there. My last concern is that our proposal was submitted over a year ago, and with the increased costs for all materials, I think that needs to be a consideration also. And I know all of these are contingent. None of these things may happen, but I think that at least $70,000 should be anticipated. May not be needed, but I don't want to have to come back again and ask for additional funds. But if this could be a placeholder, I think that we could start our project and be assured that we could finish it in a timely manner.
Any questions?
Hi, Christine. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I do have a couple of questions. Um, First, what is the amount that CPC requests, the dollar amount, before you need to get more than one cost estimate? So you've only got one, correct?
Yes.
So maybe Wayne or Ed, I don't know if you know.
There is
So when
there
some,
is not.
so
It's best practices to get as many estimates as possible, at least three.
I was just going to say, I assumed it was three, but you've only got
And
one
I
on one.
believe Christine will hopefully use the next few weeks getting a few more estimates and better numbers.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that's necessary, and I am working on that. I also like you to understand that we anticipated doing replacement windows. Um, the idea of doing restoration was just, suggested to us just probably a month ago. So I'm doing the best I can to get these estimates and get you the information that you need. So I will get that. I will get an estimate for the storm windows as well.
So I do have another question. So I know the Historical Commission approved this a little over a year ago. I believe it was December of 2024. That was approved, correct me if I'm wrong, based on replacing non-original windows. Is that correct?
Yes, it was approved to do complete. There were 28 windows that we're going to replace. A couple of the windows we know that the beautiful half moon window in the front of the building, and there's another small one on the side of the building. We know that those are original, and the downstairs in the lower level, those basement windows are, those were done. I think the basement was done in 1996. And so it's the rest of the windows in the firehouse.
So you're saying those windows are not the original?
I didn't think they were. I mean, I know that other people have other opinions. I really don't know.
So, what I did, John, when this problem emerged is I contacted Jay Thomas, who was sort of clerk of the works on some of the early Builders Museums projects. And he put in an opinion that they are original windows. And your historical commission chair, Mr. Hurley, also said that as well. So we have to pay. We have to replace based on Department of the Interior standards, which says original windows has to be restored if possible. I'm going to look into that in a little bit more detail to see if there's a loophole there, because it seems to me that where a project was approved that would replace the windows with modern windows that look the same as the original windows. It's certainly something worth exploring, which would apparently save us over $100,000.
So why couldn't we do this? Did you say, Christine, you were considering storms also?
Well, I think that if we did the restoration, there are storm windows on there now. They're very old. If they come off, they're just going to disintegrate. So if we just restore the windows, they're single pane. The draft comes, right through them. So we'd have to put up storm windows. And my thinking is this: if you have to put storm windows over restored windows, you're not going to really see the restoration work. But if we put in replica windows that are weather tight and won't require storm windows, the look of the building, will be the same. It will look just like it, looks now, only much better. And I just recently reviewed, what the Department of Interior says about that, and they do encourage you to do restoration of windows. However, um, they also want you to consider, weather tightness and use of the property. This is a well-used property. People are in that every day. Our heating costs, are high. If we did replacement windows, I think our heating bills would come down. It would be more comfortable. You can feel, even with the storm windows, you can feel the breeze coming through. I My opinion, the opinion of my board, is that replacement windows make more sense. The building would look really beautiful. It would look very much like it did when it was built. We are doing our best to, keep the historic value of the building. We are going to take off the garage doors that are on there, which, are not original. And we're going to replicate the original firehouse carriage doors and make it look that way. And so I think we're doing a lot of things, many things, to keep the building, historic, and also fit for its purpose. And that's why, my board and myself really feel that replacement windows make much more sense. We agreed that we would, show the Historic Commission the ones we choose. Replicas are available that are, weather tight and, would, go in and out easily. Taking out the sashes and everything, I mean, it's possible. But I don't think we will get, what we really, really need is a much more, weather tight building, where you can actually see what the building looked like when it was first built.
Christine, when was the last time the building was insulated?
Oh, I'm not sure. I mean, there's insulation in the attic. It's old. It's the old pink insulation that's, I don't know if there's insulation, in there at all. I really don't know that as far as inside the walls. I have no clue.
I think that's although it's somewhat of a different topic, it's actually not, because if you're going to replace the windows without any insulation, it's not going to do a ton other than simply the equivalent of closing a window. And so if the insulation in the building hasn't been addressed, you're not going to see a dramatic change just by simply replacing the windows or adding storms. You're going to stop the draft. That's about it. But I would certainly encourage you to, in the least, have, you can have the companies that Mass Save will send out. But the shelf life actually for insulation is about 20 years. And there's ways that in historical buildings, insulation can be blown inside the walls, certainly tightened up in the attic, certainly tightened up in the basement spaces, and that would make a dramatic difference there in and of itself. That's was my first question that I would encourage you and the board to take a look at. The next question is something that we always get when we give a funding source and it's at town meeting. People are going to say, well, I see that they're fundraising. Why can't they pay for it themselves? So just to ask about what you're doing for fundraising so that it's here in case anybody watches the video, and where those funds are going. And lastly, on a personal appeal, are you going to bring back the Brew Museum? Thank you.
The last one, it's under consideration. The last part. We do have fundraising, and we did receive $129,000 from the MCC for the building, and that is going into the building. So we have that. We're also redoing our outside space. the Wild Place was really an extension of the museum, and we're fundraising for that. So, we are really careful about, our spending, and, we continue to fundraise for the projects we have. But, since this is a historic building in a historic district, we came to, the CPC, for funding.
So it essentially meets one of our criteria, which is that you have some skin in the game, and you're not getting 100% donation from us.
Exactly.
We just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
I think the advice on the insulation is an extremely good one as well. This is every year we look at the process by which we do this, and one of the things that many years ago we established as a criteria for us is that the recommending commission vet the project closely before recommending it to us, and I think that's something that after we get through the town meeting process, we need to look at that. John.
Yeah, Christine, I should say, Ed, when Jay went out, Jay Thomas, did he say the windows were in good shape?
Yeah, we all admit that windows are in good shape. They don't look like they're 100 years old.
So I guess, Christine, and I totally get and understand the position you're in, but I'm looking at it from a historical perspective. If the windows are original to the building, and we have this beautiful structure in an historical area, where do we stop? If we allow that, then why don't we take the next few buildings and they want to get
a slippery slope argument, but that's a specious argument, which I don't want.
Well, not necessarily, Ed. But to your point, though, I think this needs to go to the historical commission and go from there for a recommendation.
One of the reasons we're being so careful is that we had a proposal quite a while ago from the Congregational Church at the center to help replace their roof. It's a slate roof, and obviously very expensive. And they proposed using artificial slate, and we looked at that 8 different ways, and basically that didn't pass the test for the Department of Interior standards. I think we need to look at this a little more closely, but if we can afford to do this and it doesn't delay your project, that's also going to be a consideration as well. I don't want to delay this anymore. You've been held up a year already, so.
Yeah, we have. I mean, and we understand, why, the article was taken, off of the Springtown meeting last year. We certainly appreciate that, and we're very grateful, that we were able to go to the November town meeting and the funding was approved. So we greatly appreciate that. One other thing in terms of fundraising, we have we just received another grant that we have to match, and those funds can, we're in the process of doing that also. So we are relentless when it comes to applying for grants or holding fundraisers that make sense for us, and we run a very tight budget, and at the museum, where we have a small staff. And we do everything we can, to keep the building in good shape. And I really want to emphasize that that most of that building is original. We're doing the best we can with it. And no, you really have no say or have or give funding for interior, but a lot of the interior also is been kept original.
Correct.
Are there limitations if you were to re-insulate from a historical perspective, John, Ed, if you were to add that? Because the cost savings for your heating in depending on what's done, can be upwards of 20%. I mean, it's really dramatic, and it
It's
would.
something to look into for sure, Meredith. And I think you bring up a good point. And it'll be interesting, Christine, if you do bring out Mass Save. I mean, they're unbelievable.
That's a
And
free, that's a free analysis too.
I'm aware of
yeah,
that.
well,
But right now, I mean, we don't have that in our budget. I mean, that, that's not something that, we can come to you for. And that would be another whole, process
no,
of
Mass
fundraising.
Save, yeah, Mass Save usually, if there's a cost, it's minimal.
Okay.
It
That's good to
comes where every one of us here is paying for that. It's a charge that's on our electric bill. I found out that the hard way, and then I found out they could come in and do X amount of thing. I'm saying, how much is this going to cost? And they go, nothing. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So it's worth checking into.
And as far as historical restrictions on it, unless we put the insulation on the outside of the building, there's no restrict. Anything you can't see is
Correct.
There's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, so that could be cost savings for you for your heating bill right away, and you wouldn't have to go through historical commission in order to get that done.
I will definitely look into it.
And there are all types of rebates. There are tremendous amount of energy grants in order to get that done. I think that you would find that it would be a very cost-effective move. I have a lot of clients who have done it, and
it's true.
Very effective immediately.
Okay. I will do that.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak here? What we're doing is, if the project, which this one obviously is already in process, but what we've agreed to do tonight is, with the proposed projects in front of us, is to, if we're not going to dismiss them out of hand, then simply put in a space holder for the February 23rd town meeting deadline, and then make a final decision in March. And we'd need a motion for that.
Can I ask a question? I'm not sure what a placeholder means. Is that a certain amount of funding, or is it just?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just that it'll say Children's Museum, and the money
the
stuff
vote
will be.
a motion and a second to include CPA grant for additional Children's Museum
Okay.
work.
Yeah.
And Wendy knows a ballpark would be about $100,000, but part of this is fine tuning whether or not it's something that's happened.
Thank you for explaining that.
Mm-hmm.
I have
John?
one more quick question. Christine, when this went back to December 2024, was there a contingency built into that?
Yeah, the only contingency, and I wouldn't call it a contingency, part of the agreement was that, the Historic Commission would be able to, look at the see with the replica windows and see that if they approve, what they look like, or, the whatever roofing we're going to use, that they could see it and be happy with it, that kind of thing. That was the only part of that.
Let me clarify when I'm sorry, contingency cost-wise. Usually these applications have a contingency.
25% contingency is kind of normal.
Which makes me nervous.
Oh, I see. I see what you mean. In
yeah,
our
I didn't clarify. That's my fault.
Okay. In the estimate, I think it was a 10%.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 10%.
Okay, I'm waiting to hear a motion from somebody other than me. John?
Motion to move.
I move inclusion.
Okay, and so I have a motion from John and a second from Jim. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll vote. Hands, aye.
Lee, aye.
Keach, aye.
Rogers, aye.
Ventresco, aye.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in, Christine.
Thank you for hearing
Thank
me.
you.
I appreciate it.
See you at the beanery. So next up would be, I think Lynn Spencer is going to be speaking for the hall proposal. Is that correct?
We have Frothingham Park, we've got Chuck Hurley, and then we've got Fred and Lynn, I think, for the whole.
Okay, well, let's go with Chuck then.
Okay. Chuck, I see you in the waiting room. Promoting you to panelist. There we go.
There's Chuck.
There we go.
Ah, perfect. Okay.
All right.
So
Haven't had to use this in a while.
why don't you present your proposal? The last that I heard was that the proposal was rather generic and didn't have a monetary amount attached to it. Has that changed?
I think it would, and I think it has, and I think Wayne can address that. He can tell you what we come up to.
Okay, great.
Wayne?
You're muted.
Unmute yourself, Wayne.
I've got this touchpad, and you click it, and if you don't get in the right spot, it doesn't actually take. Thank you for your patience. So while I navigate to that, so this is Frothingham Park along Sheridan Street. There's the historic stone pillars and the iron fence, and then a very steep drop down to the track. And that steep slope has been eroding and eroding over the years. And so the park is coming to the commission to inquire about potential CPA funding for both preserving the historic features of the park, the fence along Sheridan Street, which depends on the stability of the ground underneath it, and to enhance the active recreation aspect of the park by protecting the track. And Chuck has been working to get estimates from several different companies on several different scenarios. So you have the track, you have a slope, you have the street level. So would this be very large concrete blocks that sort of step up the slope? Would it be natural stone? Would it be some sort of veneer? There's different price points to that. One aspect of this, of course, would be as a CPA project under the active rec and under the historic aspect. Historic Commission, I think, would want to make sure that whatever the look of the final work is would be congruent and sympathetic with the historic park landscape. So then there'd also have to be a little fence across the top of the slope to keep people from falling off it. It would be fairly steep. So Chuck has gotten several different options. I sent out a pretty large packet about that. It ended up being a whole bunch of pages if you really feel like diving deep into it. And I think it was looking at between like 150 and 200 grand, with the numbers to be refined as we get some more estimates and some more feedback from, say, the commission, the historical commission, on what a preferred solution would be. The solution would also have to be more engineered in more detail. So I think that's the rough ballpark that we'd be looking at. And is that an accurate recap, Chuck?
Yes, it is. Very good. There are a lot of different moving parts here to this. For example, a question I raised with a couple of people is what kind of a foundation we're going to have for this wall. One company says we need a concrete footing. Another company said, well, we don't like concrete footings because they heave. And then you talk to another company and they say, we believe we should use an aggregate footing because that won't heave in freezing conditions. And yet the company that's talking about a concrete platform says that the aggregate heaves. So, you've got a lot of different opinions here. I think the starting point as a structural engineer, because I think once we go beyond 4 feet, we're going to have an engineered stamp drawing for that particular length that we're going to have of a wall there. From a visual standpoint, I would opt for something that's going to curve and follow the profile of what's already there. I think it would look nice. I'm not in favor of some kind of a vertical concrete wall. It just doesn't make it with the park as such at that end of the field. Our biggest concern at this point is, and I feel bad because not yesterday, the day before, I saw kids sledding on that slope out there. And that's one of the problems we have, is that people walk it, run it, sled on it, you name it, they do it. And it's washing it away over time. So we need to deal with that situation before we have, a problem. And right now it's encroaching on that. If you look at the pictures, and I wanted to get them before the snow came, but you can still see the problem where the tree roots are exposed on the downhill side. So it's a good question of which way the tree is going to go. Is it going to go towards the fence, or is it going to go towards the field? At any rate, it's eroding, and the trees would have to come out of there. And I'm going to answer the question that probably would be asked by John or by someone else, and that's what do we consider our skin in the game? And get ahead of this because I heard the other questions. Yeah. Save a little bit of time. One of the things that we've done over the years, I think we've been really good about finding quality people to do the job when we're asking for CPC funding. Good example, the tennis courts built with what is called post-stress concrete with a guarantee of never cracking. I don't know how old they are now. I'm going to guess 6, 7 years old, maybe more. Time flies. There's not a crack in them. Amazing. Basketball court, same thing. The track, our goal there was to make it a walking track and to make it more inviting, and that has worked out well. Last year, we spent $60,000 between irrigation, repainting the fences and repairing them. The gate on Day Street was terribly corroded. That has been completely rebuilt and looks like it did, and latches like it did when it was built. We also spent another $20,000 on the walkways between Day Street and Sheridan Street, Day Street and Park Street, which were damaged in the construction of both the tennis courts and the basketball courts. So we want to try to keep the park at 100% at all times and not let anything go. I have a great group of directors who work with me and have specialties in their own area. And this one came up this year and said, we really need to look at this for a short-term solution for a long-term solution, essentially. As far as, this year in terms of what we think we can contribute in terms of skin in the game, there are individual components to this, such as the structural engineering aspect, cost of that, fencing, we can handle, the various, some of the other things that would be in tree removal, tree plantings at the end. We can certainly handle some of that. We have about a $160,000 budget each year. It varies according to the investments that the park has. So in the course of a year, we eat that up. And last year, I think we spent a little bit more than we had available and went to our small savings account to take care of the rest. So we're starting off this year in pretty good shape, but we just never know. We don't see any major obstacles like we have had in the past, like rebuilding all of the columns around the park. And then I think it was 2 summers ago, we did the entrance to the park up on Sheridan Street. So we're constantly looking at trying to find things that need to be done and do them the right way so that they're permanently meant, as long as we can see forward in the future to make sure that we don't have to do these things again for a good period of time. And I think we've lived up to that over the years. Other than that, I just had a couple of notes here. Let's see, future things we have to do. The track needs to be re-leveled again. We've got low spots there, and since it's crushed stone or whatever it is, it's a very fine mesh stone, it gets carried off the field on people's shoes, on bicycles, whatever it might be. So it eventually erodes or it gets carried off, and we need to re-level that. We also need to re-level the infield as well. So those are two projects that we're looking ahead that we know are going to have to be done. And again, we did things right the first time. We're just taking care of what needs to be done on a maintenance basis for those two items in the years to come. So that's going to be, I would say, one possibly this year, one next year, or going beyond that, possibly one 2 years from now and one 3 years from now. So those are the things that we do, that we invest in the park. And of course, the only funds we have as far as anything that's been done at the park have been through those investments. And we had a $20,000 donation this year, relocating the scoreboard at Frothingham. I don't know if anyone noticed it or not, but it was relocated and has new steel beams because the others, after I think 45 years, rusted out. Can you imagine that? So anyways, that's where we stand. Questions?
Chuck, so is the fencing in the pillars, are they just going to be demolished or are they going to be restored?
Excuse me, the what?
The pillars, are
The
they going
pillars?
to be the pillars themselves in between the fencing?
Oh, no, they're not going to be touched. Fence is not going to be touched. Pillars aren't going to be touched.
So you don't have to shore that up whatsoever?
No, we're at the point now where we can hold.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we can retain what we have currently. We're probably going to have to add some of it horizontally when we bring the wall up. So I think
Well, I was concerned only because when you get that close, what's going to happen?
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what could happen. But I think we have enough room to work with what we have, removing the trees and the stumps and so forth. Yep.
I mean, Frothingham Park is a jewel in our community. I don't have any issues whatsoever moving this forward.
Yes, the commission has been great supporting us. And it wasn't that long ago that we were notified they were one of the 10 most beautiful parks in Massachusetts. So we're doing something right.
Yeah.
Collectively.
I've certainly walked up there enough during cardiac rehab and stuff, and even 5 years ago, the space between the fence and the drop off was getting pretty narrow. My little Pomeranian could get through there pretty easily, but I was always concerned of stepping off the edge. So I think it's a worthwhile project. Are you going to be able to answer some of these engineering and planning questions before we have to vote next month?
You know, I was thinking about that as we go through the program tonight, and we just have to hit the ground running. And if we can't meet that deadline, we certainly would give you enough notice that we couldn't. But I think we can. I think it's not that hard for a structural engineer to be able to tell us what it's going to cost to do that. We've got a number of people who have given us quotes already, and I'd like to get one more. We need a little bit of help in terms of homing in on what it needs to look like. And that's the thing I think it's going to take a little bit of time. And who's going to be involved with us in making the decision is a concern.
Once upon a time, and correct me if I'm wrong, the girls softball team played up in that corner, and wasn't there some kind of support for the embankment there?
I think I have a picture that was taken many years ago. I think Johnny Coe had it, and it showed, I think, a Little League team, and they played up in that corner, and it showed railroad ties.
Yeah.
And railroad ties today would never probably be used in a situation like that because of their environmental concerns. And they rotted out, and Johnny was telling me that as they rotted out, holes were created in the railroad ties, and then the bees built nests in them. So you can imagine what it'd be like when you sit down on a railroad tie.
Yeah.
So they eroded and probably were taken out, and then that caused it to have no support at all.
Okay. I wouldn't be a proponent of concrete blocks, but a natural rock would be, rock facing in that corner. Not that I'm trying to design this, but I think we're at the point where, unless I hear otherwise from the rest of the commission, that we can look at this as a worthwhile project, tell you to go ahead and have another space holder for the town meeting. The other thing to keep in mind is this is, while it's a important issue, it's not at this point an absolute emergency. So if we did have to, because of the planning, et cetera, um, have to push it through, we could always go to the November town meeting and the project could start next year.
You know, I'd have no objection to that at all, Ed, and I think that gives us enough room. And, you know, when you talk about natural stone, you can sweep natural stone in a, you know, curved area. It'd be hard. You can do it with block as well. All of the people that we've talked to so far have talked about drainage behind it, and they know what they need to do to make it work right. I think that the block, a natural, natural stone is going to be more expensive, but and it's held in with mortar joints, and mortar requires maintenance as time goes on. But everything requires maintenance, so that's not a big deal. And I agree that possibly that would give us more time to really iron out the details. And we were talking about what was the ideal time to do this, and it would be October 1st. We don't want to interfere with what's going on in the park.
That's true. Yep. Baseball season's on it, almost here.
So I think that's not a bad approach. I wouldn't object to that.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to do what we did for the last project. Wayne had some magic words.
To include.
To include, okay.
I'm moving conclusion then.
Thank you. And a second? John, thank you. Hands votes yes.
Lee, yes.
Peach, aye.
Rogers, aye.
Andresco, aye.
All right. Thanks, Chuck.
Well, thank you, folks.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
Chuck.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we should also
know.
probably, Chuck, before you go, and while we
Right.
have Ed and John here, we should probably have some more formal conversation with the historical commission on direction as you're getting pricing and design and such. So we'll try to arrange maybe a site visit and or an actual historical commission meeting to give some feedback on concepts.
Yeah, that's good. I know somebody there.
Yeah, we all do.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
And Chuck.
And that brings us to the hall, and we'd like to promote Lynn Spencer, and if other people are here, then we can bring them in too.
I see an attendee that is called Oaks Ames Memorial Hall. I suspect that might be Fred.
Maybe the hall's attending on its own.
Really?
Okay, there we go.
Hi, Lynn.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lynn Spencer. Hi, Ed. It's good to see you. Jim, Wayne, John. I've seen you before, some of you.
Oh, well, yes.
Here's Brett.
And hi, hello, Lynn. Ed, I am Oaks Ames Hall.
Fred?
47 years and counting.
So Lynn, some of us have become historic.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're
Wow.
right.
Or actually ancient.
Touche,
So,
touche.
This proposal here relates to, once again, the tower, which seems to be not one of Mr. Richardson's best designs. So what's up there now?
Okay. Well, thank you, Ed. I have to say, coincidentally, the age of the roof that we're proposing to replace is nearly the age the time that Fred has served at the hall. This is a section of roofing that was done in 1981. It is behind the tower. Thank you, Wayne, for putting that on the screen. So if you look at the tower, if you were to go behind it towards the woodland, there's a section of copper roofing. and we're looking at images of that roof. We had some staging put up and some temporary repairs done several years ago. That afforded us, of course, the ability to get up there. Doug Manley and myself, my business partner, were up there looking at this roof. It is aged. 45 years is way long for a copper roof, and you can see open seams. So there's been some patching, some caulking, but the time to replace this roof is now. And you can also see some of the details that we are struggling with. You know, you've got a pocket created by two slopes of roof coming together. So as we look at the design for this, we'll actually be rethinking the drainage, the way the roof drains, so it's more effective. It's a complicated area to reach. As you can imagine, it has to be fully staged to get personnel up there to work, so there's a cost associated with that. And then we're also working in relation to the nearby, there's a section of slate roof as well as the red tile roof that will also be impacted by this. So it's past due, and it's time to address it with full replacement and some very selective, careful redesign for improved drainage. So that's the idea. We had actually, as Fred, was looking at this with us, we actually provided a cost estimate based on our observations of the roof and our experience with similar projects. The approach the hall is taking on this is to actually also apply for another grant, and Massachusetts Preservation Projects Fund grant. With that, there's a limitation on what we can reasonably expect from them. The estimated budget for this construction project with staging and the roofing work is $150,000. The MPPF program typically gives grants in the $50,000 range. So the hall is looking at a balance needed of approximately $100,000. And I would modestly suggest that it would be helpful to have some architectural fees associated with that. So that would be about 10%, say another $15,000. We've worked with the hall for a number of years. We've also worked with the Town of Easton. I couldn't help but earlier listen to the discussion about windows and the town offices and Wendy Nightingale's presentation. And we were the firm that worked on the window and roofing project there. So that's the sort of story of what I have to present. We also have some plans, Wayne, that you might want to just help people understand the location. Yes, that's our cost estimate. And you can see that we're really gearing up for not only talking with you about funding, but also the Massachusetts Preservation Projects Fund, which has a grant due March 13th. And that sort of highlighted that circled area is the tower itself with the faceted roofing. And if we just move down a little bit, yeah, then you get to the area of the copper roof and the adjacent slate and tile roofs. And then a little bit further down, Wayne, oh, more photographs. Fred, I defer to you to add further comment here.
Well, I think, as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And as you can see quite clearly, this section is really starting to fall apart. And you're right, Ed. We have been, this bane of our existence has been this tower, which is, as you alluded to earlier, is probably not one of Richardson's better designs. It looks great, but it has a lot of inherent problems. And I think, pardon the cliche, the bills are sort of coming due on that after 140 some years. And also the copper at 45 years. So,
yeah.
So if I may start the questions here, um, we can fund restoration and rehabilitation, but we can't fund maintenance. Why isn't this maintenance?
Because it's a really a capital improvement. I mean, a capital project. Um, it's a fine line on maintenance. What I've been involved with other community preservation projects, and I chair it in my own community. I've actually explored that issue of maintenance many times, and part of it is the life cycle of the product or of the action. The fact is, with the copper roof, you're looking at a long-term investment rather than a painting project. So I would say it's duration, Ed, as well as it's the duration of the material itself that really leads this to a capital or a major improvement category.
Well, let's open this up for other questions, comments.
Hi, Fred.
Whatever.
Hi, John.
So the last time the staging was up, what is it, a couple of years?
Yeah.
There wasn't a complete inspection done in that area, the turret?
Oh, there was, and
Yeah.
that's when it was discovered,
Yeah.
and that's when the initial bid came up. And that was lower because, as Lynn pointed out to me, it was just from that particular trade's skill set, what they had to do did not include scaffolding, did not include other things as well. So, oh yes, that was spotted back then. We were told, look, we put a patch on it. It's probably going to be, or Lynn told me, it's going to be a couple of years or something like that before you're going to have to come back and take a serious look at it and do something about it.
So I guess
there are no, but just to finish up, there are no surprises here on this.
Yeah. So the staging was up. I'm just trying to think of what's it cost to put that staging up?
I'll defer to Lynn.
$20,000-$30,000?
It's more like $40,000, and then we have to get to the other side.
I'm trying to think of every time we put that staging up, then it's another $40,000.
Yeah.
Getting the inspections. I'm trying to be cost effective.
Well, we didn't have the money before, John. We didn't have the money.
No, I'm saying while that staging was up.
Okay.
To address things like is there plaster repair in this application?
No.
So that's going to be additional also. Probably because you've got leakage, right?
Where did the plaster repair come from, John?
I'm just thinking of water coming down. It's just.
Well, we have alternate sources, and I hope you don't think the first thing that always comes to mind is let's go to CPC, because we have for this size. I mean, in those large mortar projects, yeah, CPC has been our savior. But on things like tower ceiling, paint peeling, or stuff like that, we'd prefer to look other places and save the CPC for the major projects.
So the funding that you're applying for to both of you, is that going to be in place when this potentially moves forward to town meeting? Will you have that funding in place?
So do
potentially.
Fred, should I just jump on that one?
You're the MPPF veteran, so go ahead.
I'm the veteran of Massachusetts Preservation Projects Fund grants. So the deadline is May 13th. Grants are awarded in June. So, your town meeting schedule, I believe, is it May this year?
Yeah.
So what it's crucial with an MPPF grant is you have to go in with your match committed, or a known match. Community preservation funds can be used as match in the grant application, and then when the town meeting makes its vote, hopefully, then that we notify Mass Historical Commission to say that funding has been committed. That helps them actually make their final,
That makes sense.
if you will, a month later. And then the schedule for this would be, we have to submit full bid documents, plans, and specifications for their review by the end of August. And it can go in earlier, but it has to be at least by the end of August. An agreement gets prepared between the association and MHC, and then it goes to bid. And that's part of the process, is we would be going to a competitive bidding process. It has to be advertised in a local newspaper. We do solicit qualified contractors, and the low qualified bid has to be awarded. So, yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. Is that?
Yes.
With MHC? Because, oh, okay, well, I'm getting it mixed up with the hall where we don't have to take the low bid.
No, we have to. And yes, and I should say I used to be a grants administrator there. So yes, I know that sort of program pretty well.
All right. I'm just hoping, I guess, right?
Well, and we in the bid process, we actually write in qualifications. You have to do similar work on, National Register properties. You really have to show that you have the capabilities for this work. And to the earlier speaker who was really speaking about the real value in quality going into the work, and doing it with enduring value in mind, that's important.
Absolutely.
That's important.
I've got a question. If you discovered this issue 2 years ago and you're coming to us now, this is clearly not an emergency, like when the beam broke in the main hall.
Yeah. So
how
Ed,
much longer can it be delayed?
Well, it's not delay, Ed. In fact, you could say that it's more of an emergency now than it was then, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, Fred.
Yeah, I think what's happened is the patching that had been done with caulking when they had done that inspection is beginning to fail. I was in the tower with Fred last week, and I could see, some of the water damage at the very top of that ceiling. I think it's not irrevocable. I think it's, that's basically a wall board and skim coat, and that can be patched and handled in the way that Fred was suggesting. But we've got to actually get the roof in good shape.
So besides John and I, we've been at this the 47 years.
I
know. Rob, you're new. Why don't you take a crack at asking some questions?
I don't really have too many questions. The only one that comes to mind is whether this part of the roof is visible from the street, or is it hidden from street view?
It's hidden.
It's really hidden. I was trying to think about, a crack that I could make if you had a drone and you were flying it around, you could see it. If you were a seagull or a pigeon, you can see it. But it's you can't, there's a hatch in one plane of the hip roof, which you can pop open and you can put your head out and you can look over about 20 feet until you can see the back of the tower. That's the vantage point.
John?
Another question, Fred. I think it would help CPC. Obviously, we love the hall. I mean, one of the biggest problems we have in Easton is we're so historically rich in open space. Everything is gorgeous. The hall, we keep doing these Band-Aids that are necessary, otherwise it's going to crumble. I totally get it. But I think it would be helpful to CPC if going forward, so we get an idea of what we're going to see for applications coming forward to us. What do you foresee? Is there some kind of plan that will give us a heads up and say, hey, you know what, next year they're going to need this. 2 years from now, they're going to need this. Money being so tight, we got to make sure, because all of these projects are special. But unfortunately, we've got a plan. So my question is a plan.
Well, we have and thanks to the CPC and I think a supplemental grant from MHC, we have we call it the master plan, which is not as comprehensive needs analysis, which does go into that, including a maintenance schedule that Lynn provided, what would be necessary. But that, I think what we find here is somewhat, well, maybe not in this case. I forget the right word for it, but unexpected smaller projects to come along, which, if we did get a large grant, that would be inclusive and part of that. But the things that get us are the things we don't see. And since we really don't have but and I have to, CPC has really kept this building going. I mean, I let everybody know that. We would be in very critical shape, bad shape, if it wasn't for the CPA funds. So, again, where we can, we try to get money, like the ceiling and the roof in the tower and that sort of thing. But there is a good comprehensive plan with schedules and, a sinking fund, a schedule for that. I mean, I think it's about 4 pounds, 3 or 4 pounds, that report. But again, there's a lot of unexpected things that just happen in life, and that's,
Yep.
And as John and Meredith and Jim know, that was a dream of our previous chair, not Amanda, but Tom, and there was high hopes of wrapping it all up in one big thing, and the financial circumstances of the town don't allow that at this point. And we had some stipulations related to implementing that plan, such as a business plan, which we still haven't seen. And so I think while it's important to talk about the overall big game plan, we're not going to be able to play that game for a while. So the question is, do we want to spend, how much are you asking for here, Fred?
150 plus a few bucks for Lynn. 10 to 15% for Lynn. Yes, sorry.
Thank God he mentioned you, Lynn.
Yeah, I know.
165,
Really
I
dumb.
think it comes to.
So 165, yeah, thank you. Which is more than we anticipated spending for all projects this year. We were, again, trying to reserve as much funding for capital projects that might pop up that we could help the town with. We've been told, as he was leaving town, Connor believed that the financial strictures here are going to begin to ease, not this year, but next year. That doesn't help with $150,000, however. So let's hear from some other people, or are we just gonna, let's stick a placeholder on it and kick it down the street until next month, and then, is that what you want to do? I'm just the chair.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
The grant application for, I mentioned earlier, we're also looking at other sources of funding to add
I was
to
just going to
this.
ask that.
And so that grant application is due March 13th. I don't know if you'll be meeting beforehand. If there was a way that you could say that this is being favorably considered, it will certainly help the case that we have to, it's a long application. It will certainly help the case for that application to say that we have, good potential for CPA match. And
Bless you, Ed.
I'm just saying it's a way of it's a way of reducing the amount the CPA would be putting into this and leveraging that MPPF grant.
I mean, me personally, I think that's a great idea. If you can access funds. We haven't had a so-called emergency meeting in quite some time, but I'd be in favor of that if you can push something in the direction of additional funds. How does everybody else feel?
We've been at this a long time, John, and we all know that we've been promised, oh, we're looking for a grant, vote $80,000 out of CPC funds, and then the grant never appears.
Well, you're right, and that was one of my first questions.
Are you saying that's the hall, or are you referring to someone else?
I'm saying that that's the grant process. You can never rely on a grant.
So I found out.
Until you have it in hand.
No, but I think, Lynn, and tell me if I'm misunderstanding this, you're saying that you could potentially get additional funding apply for it within 30 days, but it would be contingent on whether or not we would approve the funding based on what that 150,000. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's
Roundabout.
Yes, just about. It's nuanced, isn't it? Because we apply for the grant, we apply for community preservation. You know, you have the town meeting in May, and the grants get awarded in June. You know, that's the dance that we've got here. I will say, to the history of the hall's relationship with the Mass Historical Commission and MPPF grants, there's been a number of MPPF grants, and as a national historic landmark, this is a highly regarded property. So, I think they look favorably on the hall. It's a simple thing to say.
I don't see
And
this
it's
as
not
kicking.
guaranteed.
Jim?
I don't see this as kicking anything down the can down the road. I think what we're doing is holding a place so we can generate more information. And so I would move inclusion at this point. And then we'll see what we learn for the next meeting.
Yeah. Do we have a second for that? That's a motion.
Second.
Can we have a second? Discussion then. Maybe a contingency on a contingency with, hey, we support you 190,000, 100%. And if you don't get the grant, we'll see you later. We weren't going to support you any further than that. So I think Jim's motion is a good one. Let's push this off for a final vote until next time. Can we the next meeting is when, Wayne?
March 12th, Thursday, March 12th.
Oh,
The day before the grant is due. Perfect, Wayne. Gosh.
Is that a practical time, or would you like us to meet a little bit earlier than that?
I think we can make that work. I'll send you the grant application too, so you can see it. So it's, you can see there's a real thing here.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
So we have a motion, which is basically to approve this for further analysis, with the final vote to take place March 12th. I would request that you all, from the hall perspective, work with Wayne to get as much detail for this proposal as possible. And of course, I'd be happy to do that as well. So,
Great. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So let's, if there's no further discussion, let's take a vote on Jim's proposal, and I vote aye.
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 So that's 5 votes, and it passes
Thanks.
unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Lynn. Thank you, Fred.
Just don't have the tower fall in on us on February 14th.
You better come on the 13th then. Yeah.
As long as it's not Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, sayonara, I guess.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, thank you both for coming. Nice to
Hey,
see you.
and-
Thank you.
again.
Thank you very
Thank-
much.
That was a good discussion. Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Bye. Wayne, is there any other business not reasonably anticipated by blah, blah, blah? The chair? Me, that's me. I don't have anything.
Yeah, I think that's it. So these three potential projects would have been voted to be included in the warrant. I can draft up some warrant article language in generalities with rough numbers. And then, the next step would be, it's usually a vote to include and recommend is what the commission does, what the CPC does. But of course, this is just to include, and then the recommendation can come or not in March and possibly even in April. And then I think it is actually the select board that votes to put warrant articles on the town warrant.
Correct.
So we or you would need to meet and make a recommendation before the select board makes their recommendation. But if you're doing this on March 12, we should be in reasonable time should any or all of these go forward to town meeting.
Okay. John?
Yeah, just to reiterate, refresh, where we've got out of these three potential applications, we're probably somewhere in the vicinity of 450 to 500,000, correct?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, about 450. Yeah, 465.
Yeah. And what's our proposed budget to spend that we wanted?
Well, we wanted to spend
Less than half of that.
yeah, much less than half of that.
Half of that, 150, 160.
Yeah, I
somewhere
think
in
the budgeted reserve is 1.5 this year.
Yep.
And that does not even include the 173 from historic as the 10%.
Right.
So yeah, there's about 1.6 million, I think, of this budgeted reserve that you could spend out of. That's just coming in this year, and then there's north of 6 million.
So we have a desire not to spend this, but if we had to, we could.
Yeah. And then you want to think about the projects and the optics of town meeting with the override, and how do these land? And I
So
think-
are they, on another note, after you saying that, Wayne, are they doing a proposal for another override this fall, possibly?
I don't know. I don't
No.
know. I know the finance committee and the select board and such are meeting to talk about, strategies or philosophies. It's since the operational override was not looked on favorably by about 2/3 of the voters last time. So
Okay,
I'm not part of that, so I do not know. I to be honest, I have no information on the thinking strategy or timeline.
Good.
okay.
Well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else. Yes.
Second.
Yeah. Entertaining motions to adjourn used to be my job, but I got promoted, John, so I can't make the motion. Somebody make the motion, quick.
So moved.
All right. Hands, aye.
Lee, aye.
Keach, aye.
Rogers, aye.
Ventresco, aye.
All right. We're meeting on March 12th. Watch your emails for further information.
And
Enjoy
the
the
historical
cloudy weather.
commission and the historical commission will be meeting later this
Next week.
month to talk about the children's museum windows, and then we should also set something up to talk about to give guidance on the wall at Frothingham, so they
Yes.
know which direction they might want to go in.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody. Well, stay warm and enjoy the 3-day weekend.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Bye now.
Say hi to the
night.
chickens, Ed.
They're doing well.